Manny Diaz now is the next head coach of the Duke Blue Devils. Joe, I told you during the season, and we talked about this during the non-playing portion of the year. If you remember when we talked about Penn State, how high I was on Manny Diaz and have continued to be high on Manny Diaz, Joe, they're the number one total defense in the country for a reason. I get they're playing in the Big Ten, but look, they did respectfully good against teams like Ohio State, teams like Michigan. The defense was not the problem. But you know what's interesting that I saw, Joe, when Manny Diaz was announced to be the next head coach of the Duke Blue Devils, that, oh, well, he was a failure at Miami. No, he wasn't. He was 21-15 at Miami. He was averaging going 7-5, which, just making this well known, to the current exact moment is better than Mario Cristobal has been doing. So
yes.
What do you mean? And by the way, he was progressively getting better. He had a 9-win year, then a 7-win year. And you remember how that whole transition went down. Manny Diaz was kind of wrongfully done by the University of Miami. Now, they were going through a lot of changes and AD, and I think he was just on the chopping block. Probably the best that he was out of there and went to Penn State. I think that this is a phenomenal pickup by Duke. I think he's going to win some football games there. I think that he's going to recruit at a high level and develop. And look what he's developed at Penn State in 2 quick years. Joe, they went from being a middle of the pack defense in Penn State. Joe, they're the number 1 total defense in the country, right? I think that he can recruit and develop and do some good things at Duke. I really do like Manny Diaz in North Carolina.
I agree with you on that.
I shouldn't say North Carolina. I should say I was saying like the actual state. Not Duke fans. If there are Duke fans, don't kill me on that. Continue.
I agree with you on that. I think Manny Diaz is a fantastic, brilliant defensive mind, and I think it's really cool that he gets to compete against Mac Brown now, who I believe was his former boss at one point. He gets to compete against Mario Cristobal, who stole his job that he was doing well at. Right. Brilliant defensive coach. And the reason why that I think that this is great for Duke is that they already had a brilliant defensive mind to transition to having another guy who builds along the line of scrimmage, is going to produce a very confusing and disruptive defense, knows how to just continue the current trend of defensive success. I love this for Duke, but this is a bad decision by Manny Diaz. I'm sorry, but this is not Manny Diaz is not in the same circumstance of Mike Elko, who that was his first head coaching opportunity. Manny Diaz has been through the ringer multiple places, and he got the short end of the stick with what happened at Miami. I think if he was going to jump ship and take a head coaching gig, he should have waited. I think that there would have been a much better opportunity that provides way better resources and is more committed to winning and producing productive results on the field. He should have waited for that opportunity. I don't think Duke is that. They've got some of the worst facilities from what I've heard in the ACC. They are not committed to football. They're just not, and it is hard to recruit there. That I wouldn't be shocked if this doesn't end up, turning out badly. And it sucks for him. I hope that doesn't happen.
I think you make an interesting point in reference to possibly Manny holding out for a better job. I don't know if Duke's not an okay job.
It's fine.
Well, you can win at Duke. You can win at Duke. You can win 9 games at Duke.
You can win 7 games at Duke.
You can win 9 games at Duke.
As an exception.
If Riley Leonard doesn't get hurt, are you 1,000% confident that they don't win 9 games?
Yeah, because Mike Elko completely exceeded expectations. That's an exception, though.
They have a top 40 recruiting class. Okay, they got some good pieces in there.
But that's like a rarity. Mike Elko did the right thing leaving after 2 years after he got a first big job offer.
Well, maybe Manny Diaz will do that. And here's another thing: the schools that maybe would go after him, they're not open to him. Nor would they be open. I mean, think about what would be the coaching hot board next year? Maybe Florida.
You don't think Florida wouldn't go after Actually,
Lane
that's actually
Kiffin?
a good point. That's a good point.
I
I'm trying to
mean,
think, I'm trying to think who
there's
would
not a
open up
lot of
realistically.
there's not a lot of coaches unless
What
all
about
three.
Arkansas? Like
I mean,
if you have
Arkansas,
another
but Manny
if you
ain't
have
going
another
to Manny
if you
Diaz ain't going to Arkansas.
I'm just saying, if you have another top 10 defensive year, that's like the one that comes off the top of my head immediately, where they typically hire assistants more often than they hire previous head coaches. Like Sam Pittman was an offensive line coach.
Why do
I
I
think
feel
that
like
would be good.
why do I just feel like Bobby Petrino is going to be the next head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks?
You think that they're going to do that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're going to do. I think they had to find a way to get him back, and this is the way.
That would actually be insane to do the whole switcheroo like that. That's crazy.
I mean, Ed Orgeron did it twice.
Where? Outside of LSU. Where else did he do it?
USC. I mean, he didn't get the full-time head job, but
he was the interim. Yeah.
Don't forget about Big O, which, by the way, Florida fans, remember when the Florida fans were thinking Ed Orgeron was going to be their next defensive line coach?
Dude, I love the bit. I will say I love the bit whenever there's an opening for like defensive coordinator or defensive line. He's the first guy that's brought up.
First one. Roback's paying too good, man. Roback's just paying too good for him to be there.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.